Frazier from the personnel flight and personnel training. It's actually coming over to give you guys a really, really unique briefing on retention forms and promotion forms. So this may not be very applicable to you now. You never know with force management stuff. But in the near future, it's going to be very, very important. And in fact, why we want to provide it to you now is so that you can build the OPRs in preparation for that monstrosity of a retention form or promotion retention form that you're going to have to fill out eventually. At a minimum, you're going to have to use it when you go up for major, lieutenant colonel, and colonel. But all of that information that you're going to put in those exists based on your reports that you start building now. So it's really important to get the basics down from the initial part of your career. Otherwise, you really set yourself up for disappointment later on. Unfortunately, nobody gets this briefing until they're a captain and possibly even a senior captain, which by then could be too little too late. The intent is we're going to give you the briefing now and also the materials so that you can take them home and you can peruse through them, but also so that you have the perspective of a personnelist on how the process works. We may have our own little perspective as finance and how to manage the wording and the bullets themselves. Our leadership emphasizes some things more importantly than other career fields, but once you get into lieutenant colonel boards, you're not competing anymore within the career field. They're looking at school slots and all the rest of the stuff cross-functionally. So you're mixed in with all the pilots, with all the personnel, with everybody else, and you're just one of many trying to get into some special opportunities that they're not going to give them to you unless you build your packages in a generic enough way that everybody understands what it's saying.
I'm J.D. Frazier. The reason why I'm here to talk to you today is to share my experiences as a wing exec for 2 years, doing PRFs, working with a 1-star. All this information that I'm going to give today is not mine. It's lessons that I learned, a lot of awesome lessons that I learned from him, and also I'm a personnelist by trade, so I've worked it from not only wing exec side, we teach it over the personnel officer course to all of our initial skills training students there, and I've also worked it from the MPF chief side, so the process backwards, forwards, and everything in between is what I've gotten to see so far. And it's knowledge that we typically don't talk about a lot in our officer world until you're like a major and they're like, hey, you need to write your own PRF, so here you go, Major Bradley, fill it out, or Captain Bradley to your major's board, something like that. So take it for what it is. But I'm always on global. If you ever have any questions, feel free to drop them to me or anything in regards to the whole process itself. There are some terms that we're going to talk about just to get on the same footing. So any priorities in the house? Yeah, so PRF is not personnel readiness folder if you're used to that term. This is promotion recommendation form. So let's get that right off the bat as far as terms. Yeah, that's okay. So promotion recommendation form. We're going to take a look at some actual forms later on towards the end that we can kind of see what they look like. But just so you know, the recommendations, DP, P, DNP. Definitely promote, promote, do not promote. Those are the 3 recommendations that your senior rater is going to overall give you. On that form, you get 9 lines. And that's from captain to major, major lieutenant colonel to colonel. Same form, still 9 lines encompassing your entire career. And that's all we get. So in the enlisted members, their EPR is also doubles as their promotion form. For us, it's the same form, 9 lines, and it does not become part of your permanent record. So you're not going to have one go to the board and it's going to show up in product where you can go and dig out all your EPR or OPRs, decorations, and such. So it's used for that one board and it literally disappears. So you need to keep a hold of your old ones in case you have a senior rater or a commander that writes very well. You would definitely want to keep that because it's not archived anywhere for us. So just keep that in mind. But those are the 3 recommendations that our senior raters are going to make in regards to you when it's time for you to meet the board. Promotion zones, there's 3 different zones. Now, this doesn't apply to major. So major, the only thing we have is IPZ or in the zone and APZ above the zone For lieutenant colonel and colonel, you get 2 looks, and that's the term, 2 looks, below the promotion zone, or BPZ. So you're going to take your first look, second look, and then you'll be in the zone, so IPZ. And then if you're not selected in the promotion zone, and the Air Force will tell you by percentage-wise that IPZ is the best shot for you to get promoted to the next higher grade. Now, that's what you're looking for. In the support world, you have to have a amazing record to get promoted to below. One below, you still have to have a nice record, but your best shot is IPZ. So that's really the year. So as you're planning your career, so things in life like your master's, when you're going to go to school, when you want to command, and a lot of other things. So when you're thinking about filling out your ADP and which jobs and that kind of thing, what's going on with your kids or your family or your spouses, keep that in mind and know that. And I'll show you a tool that plans out that you will have those windows for your entire career. So keep that in mind too. So BPZ, IPZ, APZ. APZ, that means you were in the promotion zone and you were passed over. So you were not promoted to the next higher grade. We're going to give you another couple of looks above the promotion zone, or APZ. Percentage for that goes way down. So your senior rater and your commanders at all levels are going to have to really be pushing for you to get promoted on paper for you to be promoted above the promotion zone. So for us on the support side, typically what's going to happen is you're going to get 2 looks APZ, and after that point, after the second time you're passed over for promotion, the Air Force is then going to relook at your record. And for us on the support side, there's 2 options for all majors. That's you either are selectively continued, and that's the term they use, selective continuation. A lot of times that's our pilots. We still need pilots to be great pilots and instructor pilots and that kind of thing. On the support side, we produce us all the time. So you either get selected for selective continuation or you're given a data separation. So that's the choice. So 2 below or 2 above, those are the 2 options that the Air Force has for us. So keep that in mind also. Selection board quota, those are percentages. They change every year. So when I tell you IPZ is your best percentage shot at getting promoted, those numbers change every year depending on how many majors we need, how many lieutenant colonels. It all rolls into the in-stream discussion that we could have, separate topic. But they come out in a PSDM from AFPC. For us, typically we're going to get it from your wing exec, but that information is out there for you at any time you want on my purse. You just kind of have to know where you're looking for to be able to find it, but it's out there for you. Senior Rater, SR, that typically is going to be your wing commander. If you're at a traditional Air Force wing, if you get on a staff somewhere, then you might need to, figure that out. So it's not necessarily going to be your commander. It might be the first general in your chain of command. If you're on a staff somewhere, because I know finance guys should go to staff as captains. Potential is there. So a traditional wing commander, or maybe even a numbered Air Force commander at a staff somewhere, you want to ensure you know who that is. So senior rater. And then MLRs, management level reviews. This is kind of a midpoint in which a MAGCOM is going to review your record and your PRF. So you can compete at wing levels for maybe 1 or 2 DP allocations that are available. Definitely promotes. But the next stop is an MLR, and at the MLR, every MAGCOM holds one prior to every single board meeting. And I'll show you the timeline for the boards in a bit. And what they do there is they do a quality review of the records. So you have all the senior raters from the MAGCOM get together, and they sit down and they review all the records. Now, I'm talking about 90 seconds per record. So if they blow through those things, I've seen it happen, it's about 90 seconds. So you'll hear all your senior raters and any commanders that mentor you on this, they'll tell you about 90 seconds, 60 to 90, and they're done. They're on to the next record, they have your score. And it's really easy to pick out a few key things and kind of get a gauge where that record is. And I don't have the time to show you that today, but later on, if you have time, maybe we sit down and do that. So the quality review all the records, they do some additional scoring, some aggregate scoring, potentially hand out some more definitely promotes or DPs at your MLR. And then from there, we go into the CSB, or the Central Selection Board. That occurs at AFPC. That's where we bring in a bunch of 06s and our general officers to come in, and that's where they actually do the business of selecting the next majors, lieutenant colonels, colonels, and so forth. So that's not there, but CSB. So, slide, please. So what do I talk about timeline? So this is where you need to remember this. So I'm going to show you a tool that I got off my purse that is available to you. But as far as the timeline goes, when you know it's your year to meet a board, this kind of working backwards, this is what it looks like. So a day, this would be negative 150. So 150 days out from the board convening at AFPC. That's really where the timeline starts and information starts getting generated by AFPC. We call it the board announcement and PRF accounting date. This essentially nails down what senior rater is going to write and sign your PRF. From there, when you should start actually seeing something is day negative 120. The pre-selection brief, so you essentially get like a RIP, essentially is what it is, and it helps fill out the top portion of your PRF, and it also is a PRF notification to you as a member that says, hey, you're about to meet the board, start getting your record in order. So that happens in negative 120 days out from the CSB convening. From there, the next, and this is where the process comes in, negative 105 days out, that's when your wing, your MAJCOM and your wing exec, your wing commander, they're going to get notification on how many definitely promotes and what's the firm promotion percentages that are going to be established for the board you're meeting. So that part, you really, as a member, you don't get to see this part, what actually goes on at day 105. At day 66, they firm up all those dates. So all the cats and dogs at PCS and to school or PCS in and out of the wing, somewhere about this day where this was in flux, that gets nailed down about 66 days prior to the CSB. That's when your wing exec, your wing commander, get to figure out exactly how many DPs they get to hand out, if they get any at all. From there, we have day negative 60. That's the PRF cutoff date. Your senior rater, 60 days prior to the CSB convening, has to wet sign that PRF. So you can see there's a little bit of lead time before your record actually is going to meet the board. So that day, they have to sign it, because in the next 20 days, the MLR is going to happen. So it's a lot of admin hustle and bustle in that very short period, and they do get it done. There's no such thing as, really, there shouldn't be any such thing as a late PRF to the board or to MLR, because MAJCOMs and wings are really on top of that. But that's part that should make you feel good as a member, is that there are people that are taking care of you by taking care of your record, as far as getting that PRF to the board. So on or about negative day 40, the MLR is going to happen. I described that for you already. And they're going to do another round of scoring. They're going to review the records and make sure they're quality. So you have a quality product going from your MAJCOM to AFPC to compete for that next rank. And then negative day 30, your senior rater is going to hand you your PRF. That's the opportunity for your senior rater to talk directly to you, depending how your senior rater does it. But they're going to hand it to you. That's your chance to review your PRF. Typically, they allow you to ask questions and can potentially have a couple minutes to talk about your record, your PRF, and what's written on there. But what it does is it gives you 30 days to dispute anything that's factually wrong on your PRF. There's also time for you to write a letter to the board if there's something maybe awkward or funky that happened in your record. You have a chance to write a letter to the board, but we give you about 30 days to do that. You get any decorations that are on your record, any OPRs that might not be there, that's your time, your last shot to get all that stuff squared away before your record meets the board. So you really want to take advantage of you getting noticed 120 days out. You have that whole time, but we say, okay, no joke, get with your MPS chiefs, any personnel or commanders personnel you might know, your commanders, and get your record squared away so you're set to meet that promotion board. So that's kind of a quick and dirty over the pre-board timeline. So your OSR, Officer Selection Record. This is what it's composed of. So this is what, when I say a senior rater can review your record in about 60 to 90 seconds, this is what they're looking at. They're going to look at a duty qualification history brief or a DQHB. That's essentially a CERP. Like in AMS, you can go pull a CERP, anyone asks you for one. Essentially, it's the same thing as a CERP. It's just in a different format, if you will. And it's common, senior raters know how to dig through that very quickly. All of your OPRs, all of your training reports that you might have received, and your decorations. That's it. Now, does anyone know where you can actually go and take a look at your OSR today and what is comprised of it? there's a personnel system out there that you can go today and look at your OSR. Has a kind of a snazzy clothing line title to it.
It's not Gucci.
It's not Gucci, it's Prada. PRDA, Personal Records Display, I forget the A. But you can go out to Prada and you can actually click and take a look at your OSR. So when you're leading up to that, between -120 and -30, go out there to Prada, and whatever in there is essentially what's going to be at the board. So if you notice something's missing, now you're on notice that you've got to work with your MPS to take care of that. So that's your OSR. Your responsibility in all this is in that -120 and 0 day. So at the CSB, you can go to your senior rater the day prior and say, hey, boss, this, I just found this, I've been looking for it, this needs to be in my record. Your boss can actually file a stop file on your record. They'll include that, so you send it right to AFPC, and they'll include it in there, and then your board, and then your record will meet the board. But your responsibility, and what I would encourage you is if you always ensure your OSR is up to date, you ensure every year your OPRs get there, every declaration gets there. You review your CERT annually, make sure your duty titles are correct and all those small bits and pieces are accurate. You don't have to worry about this small timeline, if you will, because it's always good to go. But you have to ensure it's accurate. Work with your local MPS to correct any of those things. So just as a personnelist, I want to get to know my finance counterparts, do the same, because we can help you out as a member. And then I already asked that question. So go to Prada to go take a look at your OSR. So some of the safeguards in the system. So some of you might have heard, hey, how does this really go down? Maybe it's this good old boy system or good old girl system or what have you. I'll tell you that is not the case, because we have safeguards built into the entire process that ensures you a fair chance at your record meeting the board. One of the first safeguards we have is the MLR that I've already talked about. And it's a really unique opportunity because your senior raters get to go and ensure that your records are good, that the writing in your OPRs are quality efforts. The PRF itself is a quality material for you before it goes to the CSB. Number two, students. So say you're selected to go to AFIT or you're selected to go to Air Command and Staff College, any other type of schools, what have you. You're going to compete with all the other students. So if you were to say you send me to PME where you're doing a lot of writing, a lot of reading, that kind of thing, versus a line pilot who's dropping bombs, flying sorties, that kind of thing, the material that's going to be in our record it's apples and oranges. It's not the same. So we always make sure we compare apples to apples and oranges to oranges. So students compete with other students for their DP allocations and a separate piece of the board. So that's the second thing. Third, previous recommendations are not part of your permanent record, like I mentioned earlier. So that PRF, you need to maintain a copy of that just for the future. So in the event that it was a really good one, you already have a product you can start working with again. But it's not going to show up in a product. The only way you're going to be able to get that is hope that your previous wing exec had an archive of them in his or her computer somewhere other than on your hard drive at home. And lastly, the promotion rate allows for a reasonable share of promotions from the promotion category. So what do I mean by that? The P rate is the promotion rate, and I said that fluctuates every year ever so slightly. APC will definitely produce those numbers for you before your board convenes. Like right now, I think captain major somewhere about 90%, and that could go up and down once again based on end strength. But it allows for those individuals that did not get a definitely promote. If you just had the P marked, and I'll show you that in a second, that means you do have a percentage chance of getting promoted. So just because you didn't get a DP, don't think, well, I'm definitely not getting promoted, because that's not what that means. I've seen individuals get promoted below the zone with a P because their record was just so amazing. So don't let that get you down necessarily. Fine. So my person, I talked about that. There's a few tools that are out there for you at all times. I've kind of circled them in red. Sorry, my circle's a little shaky, but if you go to active duty Air Force, you highlight this officer. If you were just typing in promotions, or down here on the side, there's a force development and a promotions tab here. This is going to bring up, so you have promotion eligibility criteria, status of promotion boards, and officer date of rank chart. Those are just some of the tools. There's a lot of information out there. So if you have some time, If you really want to delve into this a lot more, I encourage you to go out there and take a look at some of this other stuff. But those are three that I want to highlight. Then here, the schedule for the calendar year is always posted out there. And then the milestones for each of the boards. The milestones are the day, like -150 that I showed you earlier. But let's take a look at, I think, the officer data rank chart.
The Excel spreadsheet or
The,
PDF?
not the PDF, the other one. There it is.
This one.
So if you click on that data rank chart, this is what you're going to get. From here, you can select your current grade and whatever it is. So, Capt, if you'll go to line of the Air Force up top, under Captain. So for, say, Captain Wright and myself, I can go up here and I can look up my date of rank. So if I know what that is, I can look in here. So my date of rank to Captain is, here are your dates. And then from there, so if your date of rank falls between 1 Jan 08 and December 08, this is your major IPZ year. So this is when you'll meet the board. And then it takes you all the way out. So when I say kind of plan your life around those dates, because these aren't going to change. Your date of rank is it stays the same. So 2012 and 16 is your 2 below to Lieutenant Colonel, 17 1 below, and in the zone, and 18 for those individuals. This is always out there, so it should never be a surprise when you're 2 below, 1 below, and in the zone. So this tool is always out there. So definitely spread that word to your other counterparts.
Would you explain line of Air Force versus the others?
Absolutely. Can you go back to the navigation page? So here, so you've got your Captain, Major, Lieutenant Colonel. These are all the competitive categories, or comp caps, as we call them. Competitive categories. So line of the Air Force, that's you. That's mission support. That's OG, maintainers. That would be considered line of the Air Force. And some other cats and dogs that are out there. From there, you have line of the Air Force, judge advocate. So all of our lawyers compete in a pool together. So we won't compete with the lawyers. We also won't compete with the chaplains. And then all the rest of these are medicals. So we have our doctors compete with doctors, nurses compete with nurses. Biomedical sciences, they're not necessarily doctors, but they do medical stuff. They compete together. You've got, I think, like pharmacists, some other folks in that same category. So those are all medical. The chaplains compete with themselves, lawyers compete with themselves, and line of the Air Force is me. And so let's take a look at some of the products that you're actually going to get.
PDF?
Yes, thank you. So here, this is an example. It looks just a rip. This is a pure, let's see, promotion recommendation form notice for mandatory promotion board. So this is what the NPS should send you directly, and also send it to the wing. Nothing really glamorous here. The one thing I do want to point out is the job description. So whatever this duty title says, this is what's supposed to be on your PRF. Now, you have some wiggle room working with your commander. If that's wrong, it needs to get updated. So scroll down to the next page, if you will. This is an example of a DQHB, or a cert that I mentioned earlier. So like I said, we kind of rearrange some things, but this is what our senior raters are used to seeing when they go to score a record. So as you go through here, as you're looking at it, you want to ensure your personal data is correct. I'll toss out this one nugget, the source of commissioning. This potentially could be the only place, if you were a deep G from any of your commissioning sources, this is where it's going to highlight that. So if you were, it would say like ROTC DG or Academy DG, that kind of thing, right there on that line. It potentially could be the only place, and that's important. We'll see that here in a second. So as we get on, you have your developmental education, or DE. You want to ensure that if you've completed, say, this is IDE, if you've completed non-resident by correspondence, you want to ensure that that's updated because it gives the year. Academic education, so as you complete your bachelor's, this information should be correct. As you complete your master's, as we're working on that, that should go in here too. Also, if you've completed, I think it's 15 or more hours of your master's program, you can submit your transcript to APIT, I believe, and they'll update this, and it'll say Batch Plus. So it'll show on your cert that you're actually working towards your master's. And once you go ahead and get that master's, submit that transcript again, and they'll update that to say master's. So you want to ensure that that gets highlighted. Just scroll down, further on the page, a little further. And then the next part, decorations. You want to ensure that that is correct. For us, you don't earn points and that kind of thing. But what a senior rater is going to look for is, did you receive, every time they check here in your duty titles, you can see where you've, PCS from MAGCOM to MAGCOM, wing base level or staff, that kind of thing. When they see you PCS in there, what they're looking for is there an award to kind of match your rank. So if there's not a decoration here, that might be telling you something that's deeper in your record. So it's just a courtesy look, okay, yep, MSM, column, achievement, this individual has all the perfect things. They're rolling right on down here to your duty titles. From here, you're looking for increased responsibilities. Now, in some communities, your duty titles, if you will, can kind of go up and down. Based when you PCS somewhere, you might become, say you PCS as a lieutenant, you show up to a base that's got a larger number of captains, and your duty title might go down. As a junior officer, you don't necessarily have to stress over that. What you want to see, though, is a constant upward movement in responsibility. So if you're moving from section to section, flight to flight, whatever, that's showing that they're giving you some breadth of experience, which is a good thing. But that's kind of a quick and dirty over the DQHB. So let's take a look at some PRFs. So if you'll scroll up, go to the next page. I'm sorry for the clarity issue on this, but this is a PRF. So top half, kind of the same like an OPR. You have your duty description this should be, the unit mission description. So whatever unit is listed here, you should have a unit description there. Whatever duty title is here, you should have a duty description to meet that. I'm not saying it's cut and paste from your OPR according to your duty title, but that's essentially what it reads as like. And if you'll scroll down to the bottom half of the page, can you go up just a little bit? From here, this is the 9 lines that I was talking about. You have your promotion zone and some other stuff, and your senior rater signature will be there. And then you'll have 3 boxes, so it's tough to see. This one's selected as promote. Now, I said there's 9 lines. There's obviously something missing there, isn't there? Yeah, there's not 9 lines. So some senior raters choose, and I show this as an example because some senior raters choose to make cuts, or not cuts, they make decisions at their level. So when this record goes to the board, it doesn't mean that this individual is, is bad or whatever. It might mean that the record is just not there yet. So if you're, say, 2 below to lieutenant colonel, you might be a little early as far as on paper, and they're looking to develop you still a little more. This just sends a message to the board. It doesn't mean that you, as an officer, are bad or that your record's bad or any of those type of things, but it would be a tool that your senior raters can use to talk to the board about you and your potential to promote this time you're meeting it. So don't stress. Can you go to the next one? This is the next one. Keep on going down. So this is what actually a full roundabout PRF looks like. So you can see 9 lines here. Nothing selected. So this would be an example of a PRF that goes to your MLR, to the management level review that's being competed for a DP, which check that box there. And this is actually a really good example. So you're going to hear what is called a C method of writing. So that's kind of how you write it and how you read it. So C method, you kind of start at the top, which this top, basically it's a rehash of her duty titles to show that her upper progressive responsibility, and then ready for 04th in. Now if you cut down the side, right here, you see first off, line 2, DG, distinguished graduate. That would have been like your initial skills, your commissioning source, any other courses where they hand out DG. You wanted to read DG right there. And then there's a lot of really good MAGCOM level officers of the year. And then CGOQ, she won it, this individual won it 7 times. You keep on going down, you start seeing strats. If all the strats are in your record, you're going to have those going down the side. Now, this is where style comes in based on your senior rater. You do it a little differently. This individual, innovative, adjectives that pop is what you want to see. And then you have your strats as they go down. And then here is the push line. This is what the senior rater is saying about you as an individual at that point in time going to the board. And this is really where you want to focus a lot of when you're sitting back once your PRF's done, that's telling to you because that's your senior rater talking to you. So here, 1 and 2 in the zone eligibles, phenomenal leader, peerless, that's the comp cat. If I had a DP, it would be so-and-so's, and then you have job and school at the end. That's what you want to look at, and this applies not only for PRF, it also applies to your OPRs too. So what you want to see, and if your boss is going to assign you a strat, you want to have right up front, phenomenal leader, peerless officer. Those are some good adjectives. Outstanding. It's kind of boring. You don't want to see good or excellent or ready for increased responsibilities. Some of those things, it's not bad, but depending on that senior rater who's looking at it, at the board, it could be saying a message. So just whatever your senior rater style is and your boss's style, just understand that piece. But at the very end, what you do want to see is you want to see a job push and you want to see a school push. So IDE would be like Air Command and Staff College, ACSC. That'd be whatever appropriate school level for you. And you want to actually use that kind of style. So you want to say strat if you get one. It's not bad, no stress if you don't. A strat or a phenomenal type of adjective to describe you to start out your push line. And then you want to do job and school push towards the end. So there's a couple pieces to push line that apply to PRFs and your OPRs. And then we'll go down to the last one. This one is an example. I'll kind of let you digest this a little bit and see if anything pops to you. I'm going to start at the bottom. So this individual, it's a promote PRF. And I show it to show you what your senior raters have to do in the event that a officer does something that's not so good. You can see that right there. 2 Article 15s on the way. It kind of gives an actual what they were for instance. Now you might read that and you say, wow, why would you say promote on the end? I show this to tell you that life happens. And every individual is important to your senior raters. So life happens, everyone's important to their senior raters. And this PRF took me the longest of anyone I've ever worked on. Because there was so much back and forth communication from the squadron commander, group commander, and the wing commander on how to appropriately take care of this individual. This all was, it was received in the past, still part of his record, but the individual was doing a great job at his job. Really rock star effort. And it just goes to show you that this punishment is intended to be a behavior correcting tool. And in return, even though this individual would not get promoted because you have to put this kind of stuff in the record, you can't hide it. It needs to go right up front. But just to show you that, if you hand this to a member and it's got the bad stuff there, they already know that I get promoted, you put that DMP on the bottom, you're kind of adding insult to injury almost. This is just an example that life does happen and people can turn that around. But you can tell from the part, if you do a C method, once again, kind of see strats kind of sporadically placed throughout. You've got a bunch of awards up top. So this is kind of a thrown together one, if you will. But the one before, it's got that nice C method, strats on the left, DG towards the top.
JD, just to understand correctly, where do they get all the information to build those bullets?
Okay, so I said 9 lines. Those all come from your OPRs. So if this were a captain to major, all the OPRs you have up until that time can be used to pull this information from and extract it. So when you see something,
bullets don't have to be the action impact result.
PRFs are not action impact result like your OPRs. What you can do with a PRF, because the rules aren't as strict, so what you can do is you can pull out a thought and you can kind of shorthand a lot of the words. If you'll go back up to the previous one, it's got some better examples. Yeah, so here you can kind of see, so this one, number 105 CGOs, Afghan Moscow responder, treated 14 patients, 9 KAs, and then separate thoughts, so semicolon, authored 130 flawless in red C reports to AFSA. So 2 different things, could have been from 2 different years. Once again, it was the style that we were able to use, but you kind of capture the impact, kind of what they did and the impact. And everything that you want to put in here, it needs to show leadership. So I've seen records that come through that have a lot of strats. You have all kinds of strats and very little of the actual meat, the leadership. So There's going to be a lot of chances for you to get strapped in the future. So just understand that while they're all good, and there's a lot of things you need to do to receive those, they're still looking for leadership and your potential to perform at the next higher level. So you're not getting promoted from what you've necessarily done in the past. It's showing that you're ready to assume higher responsibilities in the future. So keep that in mind when you're crafting your PRFs, and this bleeds directly over to your OPR. So make sure when you're writing your OPRs, when you're writing, have that view of that, how do I use this bullet or this impact in the future when it's time for my PRF? So don't just get caught up in, hey, I've got to throw my OPR together, because this is all, captain to major, you're going to have about 10 years worth of reports to lean on to craft those nine lines. And you want to be the best 9 lines out of your whole career. So lots of important stuff. So with that, that's a quick and dirty over the officer promotion process. Did I say anything confuse you, or do you have any questions at this point? Yeah, it's like drinking from a fire hose, isn't it? Tough to do.
I gave them a little shock and awe at the beginning. I said that although they may, like you said, not see this particular form until 8 years, 9 years down the road, the point is all the stuff that you do now and the OPRs that you build will create that report 9 years from now.
And let's see, about 2011, 2010, 2011, we had captain's boards. So they brought them back for 2 years and they did away with them. But there was a shot where the first lieutenants, some had 3, some had 4 OPRs. We were putting together a 5-line PRF. Some of you probably going to get impacted by a RIF. So you'll have to produce an RRF, retention recommendation form, which essentially is this, except the bottom line and the boxes say definitely retain, retain, do not retain. So the potential is there in the future. So I say from the promotion side, you're not going to see this form for, like you said, 8, 9, 10 years, somewhere in there. But if the RIF does come around, everything I just told you applies directly to an RRF. So there's still some good information to keep in mind.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I know you were running from one thing